iTiS World of Worship Fellowship. It's Monday again, meaning we do our Q&R session, question and response. We don't have all the answers. That's why we say we respond to the questions you share with us. And of course, we believe that God will continue revealing himself to you through our responses and your other research. So thank you to those who always send us questions. It is why we do what we do. We live for this. And of course, you're free to ask any question about life, about the Bible, about God, about prophecy, religion, marriage, sex, you name it, and anything in the theological world, really. We don't claim to have all the answers. We are not experts in everything, but obviously we give our responses, like I've said, and then God continues revealing the answers to you. Okay, so today we have quite a lineup of questions. I hope the time will be enough. I want to thank my brother Nino. At least that's the name he uses on WhatsApp. Thank you for always sending us questions. At least you are one of the few who send us questions consistently. So I want to thank you for always sending us questions. Please keep them coming. And like they say, there's no stupid question. The stupid question is that one which is not asked. But as long as you've asked, then you deserve a response. So that's what we're going to do this evening. Like I've said, there's quite a lineup, and hopefully we'll be able to get through all the questions. The first one is about angels. How did God name angels in heaven with the alphabet invented on earth by humans? Okay. How did God name angels in heaven with the alphabet invented on earth by humans? Of course, this question has a lot of assumptions. The first one being that God named the angels in heaven and using the alphabet invented by humans. Anyway, let us quickly go through this. Isaiah, are you there?
Yeah, yes, praise God, I'm here.
Man, so would you like to respond to Nino?
Yes, his name actually is Nyawole Jr. I don't know whether that is his name.
Oh, okay. This is the nickname he uses on WhatsApp.
Maybe,
I didn't
maybe,
know
but
his other name. Mm.
I think his name is Nyawole. He has been with us for a very long time. He even introduced us to Telegram years ago. So, well, his first question says,
How
how
did
did
God name angels in heaven with the alphabet invented by humans on earth?
mm. Yeah, well, first of all, it is, I would like to take your angle of the assumption that God named angels because God didn't. It is human beings that named those what they called angels, whoever those angels are. So God never named them. It is human beings that named. When human beings got these interventions with these celestial beings, they looked for a working tag and they gave to that. So if you want to understand the art of that, then you have to look at their names: Angel Gabriel, Angel Michael, Angel. So those names have meaning, and those meaning are made from earth. They are not; those names are not made from heaven. Well, the business of God sending angels and who are the angels, what kind of beings they are, I think that question will come in the future. But for now, to respond to that question, Mr. Moderator, it is not God who named the angels. It is human beings that named the angels. Named the angels. Then it is also important to understand that speaking was before writing. Therefore, alphabets came later when words were existing. I don't know whether that makes sense.
Mm. There were spoken words before there were written words.
Yes, there were spoken words before there were written words. Therefore, there were words before there were alphabets. So the idea of alphabets were invented on earth. Words were before the alphabets. It is the words that we alphabeted and we started inscribing. And I think that came later. I guess it is not that we first wrote and then spoke. No, we first spoke and then wrote. I think that's how I can go about that. But again, that is the other part of the question. So to answer the question, moderator, and I think we can go to another one. It is not God who named the angels. It is the people who named the angels.
Okay. I think that one answers the question specifically. If, of course, if you have follow-up questions, you can always send them.
Mm.
Like you mentioned in your response, why this whole business of angels, what are they? What is their business with us and God, between us and God, and things like that?
Mm.
Can probably come to that another time.
Mm.
Now let's move to the next one, which is about holiness. Can holiness be personified? If so, what is the impact or effect of the same? Can holiness be personified?
Mm. That's that question is I don't know what to say, whether to say it is interesting or it is complicated or what. Because first of all, I need to know whether, unfortunately, Nyaole does not join our Zoom meetings, but he's always a WhatsApp attendant. I wish he was on to tell us what he means by holiness, and then we can understand what he means. Can holiness be personified? If so, what is the impact or effect of the same? I am just going to assume that I have understood what the brother is asking, unless if you, Chairman, there's a different way you have understood that question.
Well, by holiness, I hope it means God or His glory. Can God be personified? Is that what it means, or I don't know?
No, I thought by holiness he means what the majority of people understand by holiness, because majority of people, when you talk about holiness, they assume morals.
Sinlessness, morality.
Morals, morality, and sinlessness, something like that. So
Okay.
me, that is what I thought. But we really don't know what the brother is asking here, because for us to understand what he's asking, we need to. Unfortunately, he's not even online, but we need to first settle what he means by holiness. But let me go ahead with the assumption that he means morality and sinlessness, etc. First of all, I would like to inform all of those who think that holiness is about morality. I would like to inform them that it has nothing to do with that. At least from the Bible approach. Holiness means being set apart. It means being designated for a particular purpose. And for me, that has nothing to do with morals, really. So if he means morality, and then he asks, can morals be personified? And then if so, if morals can be personified, then what impact or what effect can it have? Again, we are working with under the assumption that we have that the brother is asking morality here. Well, we can say that no, morals cannot be personified. They cannot be a persona of morals. But I guess when he comes here and listens to these recordings or etc., or visits the link of YouTube and gets to listen to how we try to attempt his questions, then he will give us more information that we can use. But for now, I would like to inform all of those who think that holiness is morality. That is wrong. Holiness is not about morality. It is about being set apart. And I think that is what the book of Leviticus is about. The book of Leviticus is not a moral code. No, it is a holiness code where the book intends to distinguish Israelites or Jews from all other people around them. And that distinction operates within what they eat, how they dress, how they do farming, what kind of seeds they plant, etc. So that is the holiness. That's what holiness is about. I mean, being set apart for a particular purpose. And well, you can argue that one's morals set them apart, but but if other people who are not part of them are doing the same, then they are not set apart in that context. That is why Paul said in Romans, I think chapter 2, that there are those heathen people who are not even believers in this God who obey the law. Does that make them believers of this God? No. So basically, holiness has nothing to do with morality. But if the idea was morality, then morality cannot be personified. There is no persona of morality that we can work around, because that's not how morals work. Yeah, that's not how morals work.
Allow me to add this question as well, maybe
Yes.
related. Matthew 5:48 it says, "Be holy as your heavenly Father is holy."
Mm.
But it may be
Yeah.
a different question altogether, but just try to marry the two.
Yeah, sure. Because we are talking about holiness, then I think, well, it really fits in. Yeah, be distinct as your Father in heaven is because you place that within the context and see. Of course, that's the introduction to the Sermon on the Mount. But see all the things that he has mentioned in that chapter 5 of Matthew. Then you'll get to know that he wants you not to be like others. And because if you were, for instance, if you were, let me use, I don't know whether Nyawoli is a Kikuyu or a Kisi, but Nyawoli is close to Kisi. But okay, let me use Uganda. I might misfire in Kenya. But let me use Uganda and use the Baganda people. Chairman, you are Muganda, and many people here are Baganda because this is your region. A believing Muganda in Jesus Christ and a non-believing Muganda in Jesus Christ both kneel down when they are greeting their elders. True?
True.
Yes. Now, but now you kneeling down, that does not make you holy. It doesn't make you holy. What makes you holy as a believing Muganda and distinct from the other believing Muganda who was also kneeling down is your attitude while you are kneeling down. You are not exercising a ritual. For you, it is not a ritual. Like it is not a cultural ritual. You are not kneeling because you are Muganda. No, you are kneeling out of respect. In that sense, therefore, a believing Muganda will not kneel always. Now that is being holy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes. Where they expect a Muganda to kneel, a believing Muganda will not kneel for holiness case. Why? Because he can't afford hypocrisy. She can't. So this is why Jesus says that be holy like your Father in heaven is holy. Now, by her not kneeling, this believing Muganda, she has violated a moral of this community. But she has upheld holiness of heaven. And now, for that matter, now you know why God is committing no crime, beating up people in the temple. Thank you, Chairman.
And maybe the second part of the question, which you could have attempted indirectly. What is the effect or the impact of trying to personify holiness? Very briefly. That's the second part.
Yeah, you see, the reason as to why I didn't even try to mention about that, it is because we are already struggling with the holiness.
Okay.
So
Enough. Enough. So, Brother Nyawale, if you have a follow-up question, please, you can always ask. But also, it's important that you join this Zoom because then you can clarify certain things. You can ask follow-up
sure.
questions.
Participating even in your
Encourage you
question.
to join if you can. We do 6 to 8 p.m. East African time. I don't know which time zone you are, but I assume you're in Kenya, so we're in the same time zone. You should attempt to join, okay? Now let's tackle the next question. This one is about Adam and Eve, that mythology in Genesis, the Bible. Nearly asked, if Eve was created as an afterthought, why was Adam created with a noodle and testicles? Okay? If Eve was created as an afterthought, why was Adam created with a noodle and testicles? Again, there's an assumption here that Eve was created as an afterthought.
Yes, and you see, the question qualifies in Genesis chapter 2, from verse 21, I think. But it does not qualify in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, because Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, and God created man and woman, male and female, both in his image. So it is important that as far as the creation story, the original creation story, why I am using the term original, because Genesis chapter 1, okay, is about creation, origin of being. Okay, Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 2 is about origin of problem. Does anyone understand what we're trying to say? Eh? I'm left alone here now. Hello? I need to know whether I'm speaking to myself. Can someone switch on their microphone?
Yeah, sure. Good evening, Mr. White. I'm listening.
Okay, thank you.
Tentatively.
At least there was someone. You're welcome, Kato. It's good to see you here. Maybe say something if you're there. So because Genesis chapter 1 is about the origin of being. Okay, all the things that we see in the world, where did they come from? According to us Christians, who, of course, we are creationists, we believe that it is God who created everything. Therefore, God created man and woman on the same day or same time, and he created both of them in his image. So there was no point where a woman was an afterthought. No, it wasn't. So that is what Genesis chapter 1 tells us. But Genesis chapter 2 is origin of problem, because Genesis chapter 2 is asking a question of what is wrong. Genesis chapter 1 is asking a question of where did everything and everyone come from. That is Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 2 is asking a question, what went wrong? So thus we have a mythology there in Genesis chapter 2, which says that a woman was created after a man, because the writers of the Bible are trying to demonstrate that it is men who are in charge. Women came after men were here, and it is women who messed up. But still the world was not chaotic, did not become chaotic, and did not suffer any problem after the woman messed up. It was until Adam ate from the forbidden fruit that the world also became chaotic. So basically, the one who writes the mythology wants to demonstrate women as the cause of problems. And he's going to insist on that throughout the Bible. Women will be problematic. And of course, we all know how women can be problematic. We know. But that does not mean that we are not as problematic as women are with the men. But you see, the writer of the Bible wants to show you that the problem is women. And then, of course, when you go throughout the Bible, they won't be counting women and children because they are minors. They'll be only counting men and grown-up men. So basically, that is the whole thing, moderator. So it is not true that a woman was created as an afterthought, like the brother says. It is not true. The woman was created on the same day the man was created. Therefore, the woman was created with a uterus and a vagina, and the man also was created with the noodle and the testicles, as he calls them, to function, of course, biologically and function sexually. So there's nothing like a woman was created as an afterthought.
Okay, I think again I'll encourage you to ask follow-up questions if something is not clear. Let's move to the next one, which is quite interesting and probably the longest question.
Some question, Mr. Jethro.
Is it a follow-up to what we just discussed?
Yeah, sure. It's a follow-up.
Please.
Please try it. I would like to ask how the reconciliation with the reconciliation of creation story with other mythologies, with other competing mythologies that actually resemble it, like how it seems when you look at okay, like before the I'm not actually sure, but I will not cite, I will not give a clear citation, but a while ago, as I was trying to explore some mythology studies that are there, it seems that there are other mythologies which are actually older that claim the same thing, and now the Bible kind of also borrows those ones, and I think those mythologies the talks like that was in let me see, it should be in Babylonians. They also have the same thing, like the same story they tell of this how the universe was created. It says it starts with these were created firmaments and whatnot. So for you as a Christian, how do you reconcile such mythologies that happen to be resembling what the Bible talks about, specifically where it presses the origins of everything, creation? I submit.
Chairman.
Yes, please.
Do you see the beauty of asking questions? Now, the questions of Brother Nyaole have now ushered us into some other questions now, which are very, very, very interesting. Now, and and Brother Kato, first of all, I'd like to commend you for investing your time into reading these things, even though you don't even believe them. You see, you see, moderator, the major problem here is that people do not read and seek to understand what they don't believe, and they still don't believe what they don't understand.
Come again with that statement.
The major problem in this world is that people ignore and do not read what they do not believe, and they still insist that they don't believe what they do not understand. So this is why I commend Brother Kato, because Kato does not believe these things, but he takes time to read these things so that he can have a rationale of not believing. How can you not believe what you have not even understood? or what you have no clue about? So this year I am reading the Quran because I don't believe Islam. That's why I'm reading the Quran. So the reason that's why I'm reading the Quran is to find out whether I am right about my position of not believing Islam. And through my journey, I might even convert, and that is all right. So, gentlemen and ladies, those who are listening to me, do not shut your ears. No. In my profession of theology, we believe in progressive revelation, and we know that the subject matter is God. The first principle to be taught in theology, if you studied theology, your teacher must have told you that you are not here to understand the subject matter.
You'll never
You
fully
are,
understand it.
yes, you are here to continuously understand, but you are not here to fully understand and see. Therefore, yes, for purposes of academia and the laws, we will graduate you with a degree in theology. But theology is a lifestyle discipline. Atole ife bye twasoma mmwe byammwe mugraduatinga fe we continue. Now, now, it is for that reason that we have continuous fellowships like these. We have one on Sunday, we have another on Monday, we have another on Thursday, you know, and we continue reading. So, Kato, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, to respond to your question, it is true that there are other mythologies that look exactly like the mythologies in the Bible. And most of those mythologies come from Babylonia, others from Egypt, and others are Syrian. They come from that, what we call the ancient Near East crescent. So they come from that, number one. Number two, it is also true that from Genesis chapter 1, okay, to Genesis chapter 11, the Bible writers copy highly from their surrounding environments. So they just copy and paste. They just copy and paste. However, they edit what they have copied. So there are some editions, and there are other mythologies that have been carried wholesomely and placed within the Bible.
They were copycats.
They were copycats. Because they were speaking, you see, copying is speaking within a context. So they spoke and wrote within their context, their geography, their environment, their communities, their cultures, the culture surrounding there. And I'm going to give you a few. Then I'll come to the last which concerns our question. The 10 commandments in Exodus chapter 20, you've read that, eh? Or you've heard about that?
Yes, I've read that.
They are not original with the Jews. The Jews tell you that Moses went to a mountain, Mount Sinai, spent there 40 years, and then he was given those laws. But that is not true. The truth is, Moses spent 40 days on Mount Sinai editing the Hammurabi Code. And we congratulate Moses because he was up in that mountain with sculptures trying to engrave his edition of the existing Hammurabi Code. The Hammurabi Code had over 1,000 laws. So he edited, out of the 1,000, he got 10. I don't know whether that is 100% or 10%, I don't know.
So basically he lied for God or what?
No. Did he have to lie for God? Let us first of all concentrate on the fact that the 10 laws that you guys jubilate, these religious people jubilate, the 10 laws of God, isn't it, were an edition of the Hammurabi Code. And you can find all these laws not written as Moses wrote them, but in the Hammurabi Code. I have a book of the Hammurabi Code listing their civilization. I have it here in my library at home. So Moses was inspired by the civilization of the Hammurabi and came up with his version and presented it to his people and named it after his God and said, this is what our God wants us. So what is Moses doing? Moses is saying, we cannot follow the civilization of these people. We have to come up with our civility within this civilization. It is for that matter that I normally tell people that the Bible, especially the Old Testament, from Genesis chapter 1 to Genesis chapter 11, and of course the Pentateuch are the first 5 books. The Pentateuch is a civilization within, okay. It is a civility within a civilization. It is what they have deduced from their world and what they have come up as their position. Now, from there, you can continue with the Garden of Eden. All the surrounding cultures had the mystification of gardens, and they had stories in the gardens. From there, you can go with the floods. Even other surrounding cultures had the flood, like the Jewish had. From there, you can go to the Tower of Babel, which are those things we see in Egypt. What do they call them? I've forgotten the name, the technical name.
Pyramids.
The pyramids, of course, those pyramids. That's the Tower of Babel. That is the version of the Jews, the Tower of Babel. Now, why were those cultures telling these stories? Is the big question, Brother Kato. When you're reading mythology, I've studied mythology. When you're reading mythology, the guiding question should be, why are they telling these stories? Why do they have all these hyperboles in telling these stories? Why do they have speaking stones? Why do they have moving mountains? Why do they have consuming waters? Why are they using these metaphors and these images? Why are they doing that? They are doing that to respond to an existing question. So when you're reading mythology, you have to always look for the logic of that myth. That's why it is called mythology, mythologos, the logos of a myth. What is the logos of that myth? That is what you should be looking for. You don't just dismiss something because it is a myth, unless if it doesn't have a logos. But if it has a logos, you investigate the logos. To what question were they responding to? Once you find that question, then the myth ceases and you focus on that logos of that myth. Now, going back to your question, Brother Kato, going back to your question of the creation account and mythologies around there, etc. Here is what I have to say. According to the Bible, there are 3 creation accounts. I have said this before, but let me say it again. There are 3 creation accounts. They are not 2 creation accounts, because most scholars and most theologians are going to tell you that there are 2 creation accounts. The creation account in Genesis chapter 1 and the creation account in Genesis chapter 2. But according to me, and other scholars who believe like myself, there are 3 creation accounts. The first creation account is in Genesis chapter 1. Okay? It is Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. The second creation account starts from Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, throughout Genesis chapter 1, or through to verse 31, from verse 2 to 31. The third creation account begins from Genesis chapter 2, the whole chapter of chapter 2. That is the third. Now, why do I say this? Because there is no mythology Okay, all mythologies within the ancient Near East had the two creation accounts of Genesis chapter 1 from verse 2 to 31 and Genesis chapter 2 from verse 1 to verse 25. All other mythologies, all mythologies have Adam and Eve, for instance. They have Adam and Eve. Even the Baganda here have Adam and Eve. Even with the Banyankore have Adam and Eve. Even most of them, all they have that. Now, the Babylonian mythology of the creation account, which they call the Enuma Elish, for those of you who want to read about that mythology, I think it's called the Enuma Elish. The scholars here will help me correct if I've got it wrong. They have what Genesis chapter 1 verse 2 has. Let me read verse 2. I'm sorry guys. Then the darkness, okay, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was moving over the face of the waters. The Enuma Elish has that, and it's verbatim like that. The only thing that changes is spirit, the Spirit of God. But the world being formless, the Babylonian account of creation has that. It has all that. Then the details down there change. On which day was what and what created, and on which day was what and what created. And by whom, and how was it created? It is there's only one creation account that is not in all these traditions. And that is the one that is in chapter 1, verse 1, that says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, that creation account entails everything. It is not only heavens, empty heavens, void heavens, and void earth. It is filled earth and filled heavens. He created them in the beginning. This kind of breakdown, the writer of this account, why he's writing this is because he's looking for a day. He's looking for a day of worship and a veneration of days, because all these mythologies have venerated days. So the Jewish writer is also writing his own account so that he presents his special venerated days as opposed to those venerated days in those other existing mythologies. So it is a pity that some religions actually focus on these days, not knowing the reason and the goal of the writer. But of course, we just need to be re-educated and re-inspired and re-advised by the Holy Spirit for us to understand these things. So Kato, to answer your question, yes, the Jews share from existing mythologies and around them, and then they edit them. And for you to understand how peculiar and why we believe some of these, we don't believe these mythologies. No, we believe the logic. Once the logic fails, we dismiss those mythologies. Just like in the first presentation, I dismissed the mythology that a woman was an afterthought. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
I have another small follow-up, like in form of like a question. I don't know if it's welcome.
They're addressing you, Chairman.
If it is small, like you say. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, it is small.
I'm saying if it is small, like you say, you can go ahead and
yeah, sure. It's small and it's a statement. Now, as actually, I liked how I like the depth of the explanation that you gave on mythology, and you ended up saying that you catch the logic. If it is reasonable to swallow, then you go with it. Now, I would like to ask, maybe you can address it and whatnot. Now, you see, like most of the core parts of like the whole book that would be dealing with most of the stories you find like the whatever, like they cut across. Like for instance, now when we take like for instance like the flood story, it is also like kind of like a myth from earlier from earlier mythologies. So would you agree that maybe the Bible is like a combination of text that was written before, and now once you know that, how importance, like what importance, like would you place on it? Would you now purely rely on your reason and logic to navigate the world, or you would trust something that that has those kinds of myths, provided they conform to your logic and reasoning, you swallow them. If they don't, you just neglect.
Yeah, two things. One, my approach to the Bible has the approach of the last part of your question, and this is what I advise all Bible readers. You should not read your Bible with your heart, where you just have to believe unquestioningly. You have to read your Bible with your head, and then later your heart. Your heart should be subject to your head. What we mean by this is that you must seek to understand things before you believe them. And I have here demonstrated the Christian epistemology. I have no right, but I just share my views. And to me, the Christian epistemology is that we know to believe, and then we believe to know. But for you to understand the things that we know to believe and the things that we believe to know, you have to engage your thinking and psychological faculties for you to do that. And that's why we do not entertain, at least at iTiS, we don't entertain blind faith, that you just have to believe because the Bible says so. I have heard people say that if the Bible says so, then I believe. But you see, the Bible says a number of things that you shouldn't believe if it is just a matter of saying. So to answer the last part of your question is, you don't have to believe everything the Bible says. You don't have to believe everything your pastor says. You don't have to believe everything, okay, that they say. You have to investigate. And we Bible believers are always put on the spot. But I would like to even extend this this assertion and extend it to other disciplines. You don't have to believe everything the politician says. You don't. But most people believe everything and they end up dying for these politicians. Neither do you have to believe everything your doctor says. Because we have gone to certain doctors, they have told us things we have believed, and we've even taken the prescription, and then gone to other doctors. And they have asked us, why are you taking this? Then we tell them, a doctor told me. How could you just take? And then in our defense, we're like, but it is the doctor. Your fellow doctor told me. And the whole thing was wrong. Now, this is the importance of questioning. Our byline of our fellowship says questioning to believe and believing to live. Is that what it says, Mr. Chairman? I'm trying to get it off head. We must continuously question everything. We must continuously question everything. Okay, now that's it. Then the first part of your question, I would say this. This is what I would say, and it is good that Professor Nicholas is here, a professor of literature. I will tell you, Brother Kato, and I will tell you something I tell my fellow believers. The Bible is a literature piece. It is a literature piece. It is a book or a collection of books. And because it is a literature piece, Professor Nicholas, those who teach literature, those who have taken literature to an advanced level like Professor Nicholas, they will tell you the terms and conditions of dealing with the literature piece. Therefore, when the Bible talks about the flood, you will not start throwing it into the faces of people that historically there were international floods. It is a pity. If you think like that, then you have not understood what you are holding in your hands. Maybe the flood is a character. Maybe it is a setting. Maybe it is something. Maybe the Bible is saying something different using the flood. For you to understand that the Bible is not actually talking about international floods, you need to go and ask archaeologists and tell you whether we have universal fossils to represent universal floods. Then you go back to the text and ask a question, because most people think the Bible is a very simple book and it just means what it has said. Woo! Woe unto you. Woe unto you, brother, sister. No. Be careful. So Brother Kato, we at iTiS, we do not take everything in the Bible literally. We investigate meaning. And then we decide what to believe and what to understand. Now, this resonates with what I told you about the mythology, mythologos, the logic of the myth that the Bible is presenting. And then we follow that, we investigate that, then we apply belief. It is for that matter that we're even able to stand and defend what we believe, to give an explanation. Because the Bible itself says, be prepared always and ready to give a reason for your belief. I think it says that in Peter. That's where that is recorded. So for me, I exercise such a faith where I am willing and ready to give a reason of my belief. But if you can't give a reason and a rationale for your belief, then your belief is not rational, and a rational belief is a blind faith. And therefore, it cannot be the faith talked about in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, that says, now faith is the evidence. Now listen to those adjectives. It is the evidence. Now, can you present belief evidence real? The assurance that should be established on some reasons and rationales. So Brother Kato, welcome to this species of Christian believers who are willing to investigate and even question the Bible. You are welcome. We are not like those that you have met before, because I know many atheists have met religious people, and that is why they hate even this Christian thing. Because religious people irrationally tell them to believe. No, for us, we are telling. Yeah, thank you, brother. Thank you, Professor Nicholas. Yes, but in your heart, set apart Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer. Yes, it is in Peter. Thank you. So for us, we exercise a rational faith. And where you see that we are just believing, we are discussing the rationality of believing in the absence of evidence. Thank you, Chairman.
That was a detour, but I think a necessary one.
Yes.
From Kato. Yeah, Brother Kato, please, every Monday we are here. Come and ask your questions. Please. I know you have very many questions. And we're always here. Please come and ask. And we'll attempt a response to you. I would like to go to the next question. I found this one quite interesting. Again, we're still answering Brother Nyaole's questions. He had like 6 questions, probably 7. So far, we've done 3. So this is the 4th one. And it says, let me read. I'm having difficulties understanding the gospel vis-a-vis the epistle. And those are in bold. The gospel and the epistle are in bold. The gospels are most likely the real words of Jesus as compared to the epistles, which are only advice from Paul's lips. save for 4 instances where Jesus appeared to him. A case in study is on his way to Damascus and during the shipwreck, and 2 more incidences, including in prison. Peter is also skeptical of Paul's message in 2 Peter 3, verses 15 to 16. I think we shall have to read that one. I read it and I found it interesting. Paul talks about the revelation of Christ, while the gospel addresses the life of Jesus and what he said. Is it wrong to give priority to the gospel over the epistles, except the book of Hebrews? When you read 2 Thessalonians 1:6, there seems to be another contrary to what Paul stands for. He always preaches about grace, but in Thessalonians, he brings a contrary concept. Please help me understand the happenings here. I thank you. So, Peter, you've put up your hand. Do you want to go first? The question is about the Gospels and the Epistles. Okay, do you want to help Brother Nyere?
Yes, I would like to attempt. I always make an attempt. Yeah, so Mr. Okay, the questioner uses the term gospel to mean the genre. And I think he seems to confuse the gospel as a genre and the gospel as a notion. So for me, before I engage him episode-wise, allow me concentrate here. That the first four books or records are being called the gospel, but not to mean the gospel, the notion, but instead the gospel as a genre. But still, Pastor White talked of the Bible as a work of literature. It should be noted that when you examine the first 4 books, actually, the genre is biography. It is biography, not autobiography, because it is not Jesus writing, but it is biography. Almost, it's a memoir. Somebody, the observer or the first experiencer, wrote about the event or the events surrounding the character known as Jesus of Nazareth. So they wrote about that character, and in some parts, they presupposedly assume, rather write words which are believed to be words of Jesus of Nazareth verbatim. Now, that also theologians will tell us that we need to study whether they were verbatim or they were paraphrases. Because we are told, according to the history, that the writing or the recording was not simultaneous at the time when the events were taking place. It is by oral tradition, it is through memorization that they were later on recorded. That is one. So to call the 4 books, to call them the gospel, to me, in my humble opinion, it would be erroneous, because the gospel is not necessarily a genre, and I beg to be corrected here by the experts, okay? But I doubt whether it is a genre. To me, it is a notion. And this notion is ironically defined through the epistles. Now that is highly ironical, that the gospel, when we want to know the definition of the gospel, it is found in Romans chapter 1, verses 16 to 17. Now, that is the notion of the gospel. To me, it is erroneous to bundle up the 4 books and call them the gospel. To me, through my learning, they are biographies. The best word would be memoirs. Memoirs, that is written by others about something. Okay, it would have been an autobiography if it was Jesus writing about himself, but they are not autobiographies, they are biographies, they are memoirs. So first, it is the conceptual understanding of the term gospel, that the gospel has not a lot to do with the genres of the four, but the notion. And what is the notion of the gospel? The power of God, okay, which is through faith and faith alone. In the package of this gospel, the righteousness of God, in the package called the gospel, the notion of the gospel has nothing else but the righteousness not of anyone else, the righteousness not of anything else, but of God. So any book that does not clarify the righteousness of God is simply an epigraph. It is simply a letter. It is simply a document. It is not a gospel. Yes, it might be found in the book of the Bibles or of the Bible, but if it does not clearly write out, clearly point out the righteousness of God, then you're not reading the gospel. So we have a lot of Bible books which are not gospel books. Maybe I've been too audacious and daring to say so. They are simply books, but not gospels. So it is erroneous to say that since you read it from the Bible, therefore it was the gospel. Okay, we in our religious settings, we usually have people say, "Ha, wawulidde enjiri? Ha, omusumba yabuulidde enjiri. Wawulidde enjiri y'ekimu eky'ekkumi?" Yes, that was a teaching, but not the gospel. Ah, did you hear? He talked about marriage today. Yes, but that's not the gospel. So in my narrow perspective, as a student and a continuous learner of the Bible, for me, I want to pick that point, that should be detached from the genres. I beg to submit. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that, Peter. Yeah, of course, we are continuing with the brothers' questions about the difference between the Gospels and the Epistles. One of the scriptures he quoted was 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 15 to 16. I've just been reading it here, and it's quite interesting. It says, "Bear in mind that our Lord's patience means salvation, just as our dear brother Paul also wrote to you with the wisdom that God gave him. He writes the same way in all his letters, speaking in them of these matters." And this is the interesting part I found. His letters contain some things that are hard to understand, which ignorant and unstable people distort, as they do to other scriptures, to their own destruction. So, and I've also heard some people dismissing Paul's writings. One, because obviously they contradict the existing understanding of many things, but also some saying they're difficult to understand. So they say, for us, we shall stick to Jesus' words in Matthew, Luke, John, and so on. And those are enough. You theologians with your Paul, you can go the other side. And Nicholas, do you want to say something about the Gospels versus the Epistles? I've posted the question in the chat as well, so please feel free to read it. It's a bit long, but yeah. Nicholas?
Yes, yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. Allow me to read the question and internalize it, then I can come back later.
Okay, sure. Okay. Brother Tom, do you want to say something about this? Epistles versus the Gospels? This brother seems to contrast what he calls Jesus' words in the Gospels with Paul's words, which are sometimes difficult to understand, sometimes they contradict. What do you have to say?
Yeah. I think we need to appreciate the fact that Paul was a more learned person than Peter, more learned than Matthew. We need to appreciate that. Luke was a doctor. Mark, who wrote for Peter, presumably, his level of education I do not know, but Paul seems to have understood Jesus, the Jesus who was God, and Peter, Matthew, Mark, and Luke seem to have understood the Jesus of Nazareth. Now, those are two very different personalities. Understanding Jesus as God, as the God, and understanding Jesus as a person, a human being who was born in Nazareth. So Peter and the like write about what they saw, what they touched, like they say. Paul writes about what he understood Jesus of Nazareth to be. So of course they can't, they don't even contradict, because they are not writing about the same person. I beg some. Thank you.
Tom, you have just complicated matters for us. Some of us are laymen. You're talking about Jesus of faith, Jesus of Nazareth. Okay, thank you. Isaiah, over to you. Help the brother figure out Epistles versus the Gospels.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I kindly beg that after Reverend Mukwana has gone through the question, he comes and responds to this question. Let me go to the next question. Because when you combine,
is that agreed,
when you combine Peter and Tom, and what Isaac will say after all this, then I think the brother will be sorted.
Right.
Nicholas,
Now, Brother Nicholas, are you ready to respond, or we'll move to the next question in the meantime?
We can move. He will come in when he's ready.
Okay. Let's move to this one, the horror movie in Ezekiel. Okay, so now we are on to the next question from our brother Nyayoli, who always sends us questions, by the way. Thank you, Brother Nyayoli, for always sending us questions. This one says, someone to make me understand about these four living creatures with different four faces in Ezekiel chapter 1. Okay? What are these four creatures? What do they symbolize? And what are the wheels? Okay? So this question is specific from the book of Ezekiel chapter 1. The brother wants to understand what are those four living creatures, the different faces, and then what do they symbolize, and what are the wheels? Yeah.
Yes, can I go first?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Sometimes, or most of the time, I feel excited to take the first lead because I enjoy sharing what I learned, or I enjoy sharing what I am learning in my 10 years social intercourse with iTiS Fellowship and all its theologians. So I keep on learning, and I enjoy responding to questions through that learning. Now, I will make an attempt from a revelatory point of view. The idea of revelation, where revelation, I mean the ability to arrive at what has been, but has not yet been covered to you. Revelation is coming to uncovering something that has been covered, but covered not to everyone, but covered to you at that time. Now, our brother Ezekiel had a glimpse of who God is in that imagery. But we also have our brother Isaiah. I'm talking of Isaiah the Jew, not Isaiah White the Christian.
Not white.
Not Isaiah White, but the Jewish, the Jewish Isaiah we read in the Bible. He too had a vision. One in Isaiah 6. Okay, we have Isaiah 6 talking about what he saw about God. Then we have another guy, our brother John. John also had a vision of a revelation of this God. We have this guy, our brother Paul, who too had a revelation of this God. Isn't it interesting that we have different persons to whom the same God reveals himself to, and they speak about him? One talks about the ear, one talks about the eyes, one talks about the seat, one talks about the fire, one talks about the brightness, one talks about the grace. There is another brother called Moses. Moses said, and I saw goodness of God. Oh God, how could one see goodness? You see? So we have tales of different persons speaking of a revelation about this God. So Ezekiel, when Ezekiel started to see or to get a revelation about God, he saw keyword living creatures. Living creatures, life creatures. Well, this is what Ezekiel saw about God. He saw God the life. But this life is not static. This life is locomotive. I think that's the term. This life is locomotive. This life is not static like it had been portrayed in the revelations that had been construed by fellow prophets before. Okay, fellow prophets before had construed God as a God of a geography, a God who is confined within the parameters of Israel. On the contrary, this time when Ezekiel gets the revelation, he sees a locomotive God, a moving God, a progressive God, a walking God, a transitional God, a God who transits without leaving where he was previously, without just abandoning them, but transiting and moving along with them. So I might not go to the nitty-gritty of the eyes, how many eyes they are, and what they symptomize or what they symbolize. I might not go to that further depth. I don't have the latitude to go there because of the limitedness of my expertise, but I can just look at that few notion that this God is not static, this God is life. That's why we have living creatures. He is life. And even the seat of God is life. And this life moves. And this life, as it moves, it impacts. You know, that's what I've learned, and that's what I learned when we were doing the annual Bible reading in the book of Ezekiel. I beg to share and I beg to submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Petero. The question is from Ezekiel chapter 1. That's where the four creatures are. Allow me to read verse 1. This version is the New King James Version. That's what I'm reading. Now it came to pass in the 30th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th day of the month, as I was among the captives by the river Chebar, that the heavens were opened and I saw visions of God. Okay. I just thought I would read that before Isaiah comes. Isaiah, please proceed with the horror movie. What do those four creatures this guy saw? What do they represent? What are they? What do they represent?
I will just give you the context of the vision. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
And the part of the context that I'm going to give you of the vision is that of experience.
You want to come closer to your mic?
Me or someone else?
You.
Is that so with everyone, or the moderator has issues? Because the chairman might make me shout over my voice. And
it seems the moderator has encountered one of the four beasts.
and the living creature, the living creature.
They had four faces each, please.
When Israel was captured and Judah was captured and they were being transported, a certain pregnant mother gave birth within that conflict, and she named the baby Ichabod.
Ichabod.
Yes. And the name meant that glory. But in the context, the name meant that glory has left. To see the Jews in chains being transported to Babylonia, it was Ichabod left and Ichabod living. Now, when they got to Babylonia, these captives saw nothing but glory. They saw glory. They saw glory. They saw huge temples plastered with gold, with silver, pure silver pillars, shining temples that you could not even compare with the so-called Temple of Israel. And in these temples were just idols. They walked on streets of gold in Iraq, the Babylon of then. The entire heathen country was shining and glittering. It was glory everywhere. For the first time, they saw hanging gardens. It was glory left, right, and center. In a world of non-believers, it was glory. And for some reason, the prophet and his kinsmen believed that here the glory belonged. And so was the vision of the four living creatures, which is a vision about the glory of God. The difference between the glory in the vision and the glory in reality is that the glory in the vision is a living glory. And the glory in reality is a non-living glory made by human hands. So God is contrasting his...
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. But Pastor, I beg your pardon. May you kindly rephrase the glories, the two glories, the contrast?
The glory in the vision is a living glory, living, L-I-V-I, living life. It's a life glory. The glory in reality in Babylon is a lifeless glory. Made with human hands. So in the vision, God is telling Ezekiel that if you think that you've seen glory, this is glory. Now I leave that to you, Ezekiel, to compare and contrast and tell me what is glorious. First, I brought you here captives so that you understand that you had turned the temple and all that you had done in Israel to replace my worship. You started worshiping your kings. I have brought your kings in chains. You started worshiping your temple. I have demonstrated to you that there are more glorious temples, but in those temples there are idols that are worshipped in. You worshipped Jerusalem. I have brought you to this city to see what a city looks like. But here's the thing. I want you and the Babylonians to understand that there is more glory, better glory, superior glory, even to this glory. So just like the Babylonian glory is superior to your Israelite glory, the way I have bought you from, there is superior majesty, even to this. And that glory is my glory. If Nyaole wants to understand the four living creatures, he should understand them in that context of the Ichabod. What is the real Ichabod? Thank you, Chairman.
Excuse me, Pastor. Hello?
Yes, Peter, you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, the pastor has talked of the Ichabod, and I remembered the other lady during the capture of the ark, I think, by the Philistines. Is that woman related to Eli the priest? That woman who said Ichabod, which meant that the glory of God has departed. Yeah, could you, Pastor, please reconnect that the glory has departed within the context of Ezekiel 1?
Chairman, has the questioner, has he been online? Because we have many questions, Mr. Chairman, and we need to save time, really. He should go and listen to the recording. Yes, can we go to... We have 30 minutes. We can go to Nina's question. Is there any other question?
Let me just check here very quickly. That was the last one of Nyaole's questions.
Yes.
Let us attempt Nina's question, and then if time allows, we'll probably come back to Peter's, okay? And
no,
thankfully,
we won't come back to Peter's. Peter has no question. At least I will not myself, because Peter has no question.
Just needs to listen again.
Yes, just needs to listen. You listen again. If you listen again,
Nina was online, she has dropped off, but I guess she'll listen to the recording. So let's attempt her question. Okay. Peter, I'll start with you again, since you've taken the lead tonight. Nina says, I have a pastor friend who was preaching to me. He told me you cannot experience the peace and liberty of being born again when you are still in a cult. Here, by cult, he said being in a religious denomination, Catholicism, Adventism, etc. Can I be born again in my religion or cult? He said you can't be born again, yet you still practice certain rituals of such cults. And then she adds in Luganda, Munyamentegere. Isn't he just attacking Russia and Amalako? Basically. Yeah, so Peter, I want you to help Nina. Can you be a Christian? Can you be born again and still practice certain rituals of cults? Okay, I think that's a very good question. But most importantly, you can't experience the peace and liberty of being born again when you're still in a cult. I think that's the battle we've been fighting over the last 10 years. Those of you have been with us. Some people saying, I understand the thing you're saying, but. Okay. So Peter, please.
Mugoya is here. You have to be careful when you're answering. Mugoya is here. The ambassador.
Please help
Now,
Nina and Kable Mugoya.
Now, I think we need to. I think we need to first we need to unpack. I think that's the word. We need to unpack the phrase being in a cult. When you said to be in a cult, what do we actually mean? To be in a cult. Number one, I think. To be in a cult means to still believe like it believes. Okay? That is to be. So somebody might not be a regular attendee or congregant, but they believe the way the cult believes. By that, we can say you're still in. Number two, to be in a cult means to practice that belief. To practice that belief and attach value to that belief or to that act of practice, just the way the cult attaches value. All right, now that is one. But also, there is what we can call a ritual of a cult, which has been poorly believed and poorly valued or inappropriately valued, yet that practice or that belief is a principle. So there could be what I call misunderstood principle, hence ritualizing it, routinizing it, and religionizing it. Yet it is a principle. For example, when I was still in a certain religion, I fear to call it a cult, but Pastor Isaiah is too bold. Sometimes he calls it a cult. I think I don't have the moral authority to call it so because of my learning, my simple learning, but others can do. But in my religion that I used to be in, we used to do tithing. We used to do and believe Sabbathing. Now, I want to declare to you that right now I'm Sabbathing, but not in the manner of my former religion. I do Sabbath. Now, in fact, a month ago, I resumed tithing. Now, I had left that religion, but my view of tithing was still religion-like. It was still in that thing, in that religion. So I had stopped tithing. So I was still in that cult. In other words, as far as the principle of tithing was concerned, I was still in that cult. What am I saying? Being in the cult and not being in the cult is not black or white. It has gray areas. That's my observation. Because a month ago through these fellowships is when I learned the principle of tithing in a new light, in a Christian light. And I'm happily to announce that I'm happily tithing. And I will continue doing so probably until I get to know another light, if there could be any other. So being in a cult or not in a cult is not a silver bullet. It's not really black or white or black and white. It has gray areas. So we need to first unpack, what does it mean to be in? Number one, it can be at belief and valuing level, but it can also be at belief, valuing, and practice or acting level. Nowadays, ever since I exited the cult, I Sabbath. But I no longer Sabbath on a gazetted day. I Sabbath every day. Though I congregate at a certain time, like right now I'm congregating, but I Sabbath every day. Now, Sabbath or Sabbath was a principle which the cult, which the cult had religionized, had routinized, and had misconstrued and therefore mispracticed. So, because of that, I would like to claim that it is possible to be in a cult when you're out of the cult. And it is possible to be out of the cult when you are in the cult. I submit.
Thank you, Peter. My brother Nicholas, can you enjoy the freedom of Christ and liberty, in Nina's words, when you're still part of a religion, which you call the cult? Is Brother Nicholas there? Can one be born again while still part of a religion? That is the question we're answering. Maybe let me listen to Brother Mugoya. Mugoya, can you talk? I would like to hear your. Nicholas has dropped off. Mugoya, can you talk? Okay. Anthony, can you talk? Can you help Nina? Can you be born again in your religion or your cult? Can you experience the peace and liberty of being born again while there? That is Nina's question.
Okay.
Do you want
Thank
to
you
help?
for the opportunity. Yeah, I want to say just a word or two upon that. First of all, thank you for the meetings. I've missed some, but I've been following at least all. And I'm really thankful because I've benefited a lot. And now upon that question, I don't want to take a lot of time. I want to say, first of all, yes, you can experience the joy of salvation, even when you're still in a cult. Let me contextualize it by saying that the words of Jesus are very important when he said that we are in this world, though not of the world. Yeah? And then taking the words like we are the salt of the earth, the light of this world. Going by that, we can easily say, yes, you can be in a cult, but still enjoying that joy of salvation and being born again. Yeah, in that context. But eventually, at a certain point in time, you'll get people, you get yourself drawn to people of that very, how can I put it? Of that very caliber, or of the like behavior, a newfound way of life, let me say that. eventually you'll find yourself coming out of the cult. You cannot stay there forever. I believe in the times of Jesus, there are many Pharisees and many of the religions that were present at the time, or the cults that were there at that time, that believed Jesus, even when they still stayed in their cults or sects. But they believed Jesus. An example like Nicodemus, yeah, up to the end. We are not given their history, what happened to their lives next after that. But I believe there were very many that believed Jesus. And there comes a point in life when you really have to get out. You cannot stay there forever. You cannot mix with them forever, because at the end of the day, there will be differences that will be very, very clear, because our beliefs most of the times shall be expressed in our actions. Yes, our beliefs shall be expressed in our actions. And the actions or the things that are done in cults are different. For example, in my religion, there are many we do. Some of them ignorantly. Some of those things are taught us in the cult. But then, for us who know the truth, who have tasted the real joy of being born again, the real salvation, have come to contrast or contradict those things. But still, we are still in some of those fellowships, and we really congregate there. Not the truth, but once in a while, you get a friend, you get a brother, a sister, and you tell them and you share with them the truth. So, depending on that, yes, you can still be in a cult, but also experience the joy of being born again, or the joy of salvation. And when you're fully born again. I'll beg
Thank
to
you for
end
your
there
response.
and let others contribute.
Sure, thank you. Tom, I know you have you have an opinion about this.
Why you say?
Can you experience the liberty and the joy of being saved while in a cult?
Peter asked pertinent questions as of what it means to be in a cult. Isn't it possible to mistake association with the people who belong to a cult with a cult? In as far as I know, man is a communal being, and we can't associate with the people who belong to a cult. I was listening to Brother Mugoya, and he seemed to refer to people when he said them, he was referring to people, because a cult cannot be them. A cult should be it. So it is possible to think you are in a cult when you are associating with people who belong to a cult. Or it is possible to do rituals with the people who belong to a cult, and have your freedom as one who associates with the people who belong to a cult. It is possible, but it is painful. It is an uphill task. I personally tried it for, I think, 4 or 5 years, and eventually I gave up, because it involves a lot of pain. For as long as the cult says, when you do this, you please God, God desires, requires that you do this. If you do this, He will bless you. If you don't do this, He will curse you, He will cause pain, and so on and so on. So on. Such kind of talk won't leave you really free. It won't. So I think it is possible, but it requires a lot of endurance because it involves a lot of pain. I thank you, Moses.
Thank you, Tom. Isaiah,
Yes.
can you enjoy freedom in Christ while in a cult?
You really want me on this?
Yes.
Because
These people have been failing to mention the word cult. You mention it in your response.
no, I don't mention it. It is what it is. Your religions are cults. Okay? They are just too big, too official, too beneficial, but they are cults. So I am not apologetic about that. Your religions are cults. Just like your cultures are also cults. So they are cults. As simple as that. Moderator, I have a question. Can I ask?
Have we finished Nina's?
This question is helping Ninas.
Okay.
Yes, my question is, can you enjoy the love of your life in your marriage?
Can you enjoy the love of your life?
In your marriage? In your marriage? So think about it as
If
I
I'm
answer.
married. Okay.
What is
Continue.
Isaiah nzirira mukwegayiridde.
Can you enjoy the love of your life in your marriage, where the love of your life is not your spouse?
Ate ekyo okibuuzizza mukazi.
You cannot. It is simple, Amma. If the love of your life is not your wife, then you cannot enjoy them.
So there are no other submissions to that. Hello? Have I dropped off?
No, you're still there.
So why is there silence? I asked a question, gentlemen and ladies.
And there was silence in heaven for like 30 minutes.
Because you people, let me tell you. There is a guy who said you cannot serve two masters. There is another guy who said you cannot put new wine in old wine skins. The very guy said you are in the world, Seruwangura, Pastor Seruwangura. You are in the world, not of the world. Said the world must take offense. If the world loves you, then you are of the world. Gentlemen and ladies, I am very unapologetic. I am not judging anyone. I am stating the truth. If your cult is benefiting you, stay in your cult for the benefits. Do not come here to tell us that you are a Christian in a cult. You are serving two masters. It is one thing to work for a cult for a salary, and another to serve the cult. So moderator, read for me the question of Nina again.
I have a pastor friend who was preaching to me. He told me
Yes.
you cannot experience the peace and liberty of being born again when you are still in the cult.
Pause. If you are in a cult and you are experiencing peace and freedom of being born again, it is because you are offending your cult, and your cult must have thrown you out by now. Did you hear me? You guys have dropped off. I am left alone here. That is okay. That is okay.
I'm following.
Why are free Christians with the peace, those who are preaching the gospel of righteousness by grace through faith alone, not by works? Why are you comfortable in an institution that preaches otherwise? Why doesn't that institution have any problem with you? Stop the hypocrisy. Stop. That is what the Baganda say. Stop. Yeah. Okay, can I use the Bible to demonstrate that?
Please.
The book of Acts has got two sets of Christians. Christians in the cult and Christians outside the cult. The category of Christians in the cult are as follows: James, the brother of Jesus; John, the disciple; Peter, the disciple. Those are the pillars of the so-called New Testament church. They attend every day, they attend the religious cult services, and they participate in every ritual. That is Acts chapter 1 to chapter 5. They even have hours of prayer, cultic hours of prayer. Essaawa ey'omwenda 3 o'clock. These are Christians. And that is what you want. Acts chapter 7. There is a Christian kind that is being stoned to death. Acts chapter 8. There is another Christian that is running for his life. And James, John, and Peter are not running for their lives. Are these guys preaching the same things?
No, they are not.
Gentlemen, mukakanye olugezigezi, temuleta lugezigezi mu bintu bya Katonda. Katonda alaba, he's omniscient. He's omniscient. You can hide. Isaiah can pretend to be a Christian, but God knows. God knows. Eventually, Paul comes. He comes with Timothy. Timothy is shaved and prohibited from entering the temple. Eventually, Paul is going to be stoned to death. Eventually, God has to struggle with Peter to give him an assignment. The Christian cannot take an assignment from the Christ he preaches. And his reasoning is that I cannot preach to those guys, they are not Jews. And the Christ he preaches is saying, no, it is not about Jews. You people, if your cult has employed you, it is paying school fees, it is paying your salary, you serve your job and shut up and stop telling us that we were wrong to leave. We left because we are not benefiting from that cult. We left because we are no longer members to that cult. We are known. That's why we left. We now belong to Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is our only husband, and he is the love of our lives. There is no way we can enjoy the love of our lives who is not our spouse in our marriage. There is no way. If new wine is not stretching to burst the old wineskins, then it is not new wine. I am not judging anyone. I am giving you scriptures and scenarios in the Holy Book. If new wine is not disturbing the existing wineskins, check the quality of the wine. If the old wineskins are comfortable with the new wine, you check the wine. Gentlemen, ladies. You people, I know some of you were born in these cults. You have relatives in these cults. You have careers in these cults. You have this. But I'm here to tell you that the gospel is revolutionary. Christianity is revolutionary. You will just have to break out. You will just have to break out eventually. I know. I do not care what you tell me. People are in cults because they are materialistically benefiting. They are not enjoying the freedom of Jesus Christ. You are not. No. Okay. You go on the pulpit of those cults. Behave, Bambi. Behave. Let me finish my point. You go on the pulpit of your favorite cult. Okay? Maybe it is Catholic. Maybe it is mentioned. Step on that pulpit and tell your fellow Catholics that Mary is idol worship on a Sunday Mass, and enjoy your freedom in that cult the next day. You go on the pulpit of your Pentecostal cult and tell the believers in the presence of the anointed man of God that Christ is the only anointed, and only from Jesus Christ we should get our anointing, not from this pastor, and enjoy the worship service. Do you want me to continue to other cults? No, I will not. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you too. I think Nina, you have your answer. And Nina was asking, those who have just joined in, like Bob, she was asking, can I experience peace and liberty of being born again while still in a cult? Okay, can one be born again but while in a cult? That's the question we've been attempting. And we have 8 minutes to go. I don't know if somebody wants to add something to that specifically, or has any other business we can tackle in these 8 minutes that are left. There's silence. It seems like it was just me and Isaiah left on this.
Chair.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Nicholas, finally.
Chair and Sonyiwa today but a bit distracted. But yeah, my comment I wanted to make is I think Priest Isaiah has done it very well. I wonder how you can enjoy salvation and in a cult. And I normally distinguish between a cult and an occult. A cult is that teaching which stretches certain things overboard, emphasizing certain things overboard. the cost of the race. Naye nga bakkiriza Mukama waffe Yesu Kristo, they may not enjoy the liberty that comes with salvation, but they have eternal life. An occult, a devil worship, bakolera ddala devil worship. Era waliwo some religion. Isaiah abadde polite okuba oyita cult. They are religions, I know they are occults. They are just simply devil worshippers. Nga tebalinaako yadde ne relationship ne Mukama waffe Yesu Kristo naaka. Naye nga kye kipande kye bakozesa to show people nti ba Kristo naye nga si ba Kristo munda. So omuntu ayinza okubeera awo ng'alowooza eddiini yange kati gwe eddiini esinza amagumba tugiyita cult. Eyo occult.
Webale nnyo.
Kyeya omanya twagala twogera amazima. Tulina okwogera amazima.
Abantu bagamuno tubajajinga googere genda mu maaso muganda wange.
Naye mu butuufu n'obeera nze naliko ne jjajja nga bamuwa eggumba ly'omutuukirivu. Eggumba, the bone of a dead, in quotation marks, dead holy man. Nga wabeera mu buzibu gw'alina okusaba avunnuke ebizibu. Now that is an occult, that is devil worship. Tebalina na nkwaso yadde ne Mukama waffe Yesu Kristo. Naye abantu obabuulira gamba oli hate speech. Kati nze nkukyawe nkwagalako ki.
Era tebatukkiriza na ku TV kubyogera, tebatukkiriza
bakugoba. Bakuteekamu n'ensimbi. Bakuteekamu n'ensimbi bakubanning completely. So abantu abali
zikola mu Luganda.
Abantu abali kuforamu kuno bannaayi, we examine yourself olabe oliwa. Tobanga oli mu devil worship naye nga it is a cloth gye bakubikkako mwe musaba n'oteekamuko ka Yesu n'ogamba mbu you Christian.
No. Temwegumya.
Kyeyakankomaawo for now.
Lwaki okomaawo? Eddakiika zimaleeyo abasajja bano bategeere balekerawo akajjanjako okunya. Omanyi nasumululwa. Nze kati era ngenda bugenzi n'entula butuuzi nenda be basomesa. Lwaki ogenda mu ssabo ombwa ggwe? Lwaki ogenda mu ssabo?
Ng'okiriminga nti wasumululwa.
Ng'okiriminga nti wasumululwa.
Wasumululwa otya ng'okyaliyo.
Omanyi baba bayita lubaale awo binyuma. Baba bayita lubaale binyuma. Olaba sitaani. Oli mu kkanisa bali mu kuyita lubaale mu binyuma. Omanyi aba Seventh Day bayimba bulungi. Bayimba biki? Lyrics ziriki? Lyrics zigamba ki? Lyrics zigamba ki kisajja
Musumba tatamye bannange. Musumba.
Lyrics zigamba ki?
Omusajja ataamye.
Ya Yesu bayimba bulungi. Bayimba bulungi.
Akankuyimbira mu lyrics Musumba ozikomealingewo.
Saba ako kayimba kakulu nnyo.
Emwanda ze bamuzize.
Bali ngala kuyimbira mu lyrics oziwulire. Lubaale w'omwana ngolokoka onkwate wankwata ndi muto. Kati omulala n'agamba omwoyo wa Mukama n'amalaka wabeerawo enjawulo. Omu n'agamba sirika Mukama ajja.
Yesu muwulira mu ntumbwe. Yesu muwulira mu
naye bannaye Tom omwoyo gwa Nuupu gukuyambadde gwe.
Tom musamize.
Leero mange.
Tom Jumba.
Jumba Muganda.
Abantu basalewo. Genesis chapter 2 verse 17 egamba the tree of knowledge of good and evil. You cannot stay in evil and tell us you are enjoying good. You are evil. Neither can you be in good and practice evil. Banange tulimba tukirize ebintu byatulema. We are saved by grace through faith alone. There must be an exodus. Katonda yagenda n'awamba n'awamba Kanani naye ng'abantu asose bagamba mufulume Egypt. Lwaki tewamba Egypt? Bane muve mu kwegumya mufulume cults mubeere committed ku bukristaayo bwammwe mubeere committed ekibaganya okubeera committed mukyalemedde ku cults mutya okubeera mu bbanga ne Katonda. Lwaki mutya okubeera mu bbanga ne Katonda? Lwaki mukwata Katonda ne mumwongereza ku kaluti zammwe? Mukama nsanga wano Mukama tonzija mu kika kyaffe. Baddeyo mumponye mweraba.
Aizanga mukambwe nnyo.
Naye mutuufu, this is life and death. This is life and death. Mutuufu nnyo. People don't know that. Abantu balowooza nti abeera mu religion bamuziike. Bakuziika ogende wa? This is life and death. Choose Jesus and live. Choose otherwise and die.
Amen. On that note, let us end here. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies, for joining in. Let's meet on Thursday for our politics and other noob stuff. God bless. Bye-bye.
Alenze, asumulwa sifunye chance, maybe next time.